great and original champion of our party, Abraham Lincoln, was defeated in elections for the Senate and the House before he won the most important election of all.
Well, Wyoming Congresswoman Liz Cheney always seemed to be talking maybe over everyone and to everyone except her constituents. Cheney suffered a huge loss last night in Wyoming. President Trump endorsed the winner, Harriet Hagman. I don't want to take too much away from her. She did win decisively. She got 65% of the vote, and Cheney just got under 30%.
And we don't want to take anything away from the real winner, but, you know, it's hard when you have Cheney out there comparing herself to Abraham Lincoln. You understand why these comments get overshadowed over the winner, Hagman. But it was interesting to hear some of her plans, John, for the future. Here's Cheney on the Today Show this morning.
Are you considering running for president yourself?
We've now got one major political party, my party, which has really become a cult of personality.
But Congresswoman, you didn't answer me yes or no.
It takes to keep Donald Trump. I will be doing whatever it takes to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office.
Well, I know you didn't say yes or no, and that's fine if you're thinking about it. But are you thinking about it? Are you thinking about running for president?
That's a decision that I'm going to make in the coming months, Savannah. I'm not going to make any announcements here this morning, but it is something that I'm thinking about.
Something she is thinking about. And when she says my party, too, it's like, is it really her party? Let's welcome in our panelists to talk more about this. Former California Assemblyman Mike Gatto is back with us. So is Amber Athey. She is the Spectator's Washington editor. Great to have you both back with us, Mike and Amber.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
All right, so I think we all kind of knew this was over when Grand Old Memes came up with this Bush-Cheney mashup. I think we had it first on the meme team, and then Trump used it at his rally to support Hagman there.
Yep. Got a huge applause, too.
This, though, is officially the end of the Bush-Cheney era. No more office holders from either dynasty. And then Liz Cheney's speech last night. Amber, are these the last throes of her political career?
It sure seems like it. And I think the fact that she is considering taking donor money to run for president is just demonstrative of how arrogant and narcissistic she is. And the root of this is the disrespect that she showed towards her constituents who liked President Trump, who thought the January 6th committee was a sham, and who also would have liked someone who was running to represent them to actually spend time in the area, in the state. And for her to go out last night and show up in front of a bunch of hay bales as if she was some folksy representative of Wyoming was just the final slap in the face to these people. And I am very glad to see that they rejected her outright.
You know who loves the idea of Liz Cheney running for president, Mike? Democrats like yourself, especially what just Amber was talking about, sucking away donor money from Republicans to spend on Liz Cheney when she's got absolutely zero chance of winning the presidency.
But I'll tell you what Democrats like more, John, and that is the specter of, 3-4 more years of having Trump as a boogeyman. Let's be honest, the party of Reagan and Bush, and yes, the party of Abraham Lincoln, is now the party of Trump. And, that has ramifications in lots of things, not just the presidential race. In any race for Senate, and in a race for House, and in a race for governor, in a borderline state, Democrats can vilify a Republican opponent by linking that person to the party of Trump. He is a reviled figure. And, there's some of us who do believe that our country right now needs a uniter, not a divider. The party, the grand old party, right, the GOP, is now the new Trump party, the NTP. And I don't think that's good for Republicans in the long run.
Well, it's also kind of like the old, I think it's reminiscent of the Republican Party of the early 1900s, the early 20th century as well. There's been other times when populism has been part of the Republican platform. And I would say this also, Mike, I mean, Donald Trump might be reviled by some, but he's also beloved by so many. And we look at Abraham Lincoln as a huge success because he, led us through the Civil War. He kept the country together, but he also took some pretty egregious, liberties when it comes to the Constitution. And we won't, we can't really judge Donald Trump until we have, years beyond his record.
Right.
We base the quality of the presidency on the results, not on the personality of the person who holds office.
And we got to push back a little. I mean, ever since the raid 2, we've seen Democrats come across the aisle saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. Trump is getting a lot of support there, and a lot of people saying we need to know more about our justice system and if it has been weaponized. And of course, the big story about the raid and whether or not this affidavit will ever become public, Mike. There are people out there across both aisles saying, hey, Trump is not as reviled, I think, as you want to think, according to the polls there. But let's talk about someone in your sphere, too, as well. Hollywood, of course, they're getting involved in Liz Cheney.
Yeah, the Lincoln comparison. The Lincoln comparison is one thing, but
this is a whole other level. Okay, Amber and Mike, we have Alec Baldwin, who probably should just be, focused on not getting charged for shooting a woman on a set. He's now comparing Liz Cheney to Russian opposition leader Alex Navalny. Let's listen to his comments.
And we do have one today. We do have one who's the Navalny of our current political culture, and that's Liz Cheney. And I'm very, very, very heartened to see Liz Cheney do the right thing. I mean, even though her politics heretofore was not my cup of tea.
Is this satire? I mean, it's Chris Cuomo's podcast. Navalny's been poisoned. He's been beaten. Liz Cheney, you got to admit, this is a joke.
He's in solitary confinement in a Russian prison right now. And Liz Cheney just left Alexandria, Virginia for like a day to go to Wyoming and give that speech, I guess.
I mean, look, Mike, we'll let you start since you're in California.
Look, I'm a Democrat, and I stand firm by our core values. But, I'm still waiting for Mr. Baldwin to move to Canada, which he promised he would do if George Bush got elected. So I'm not sure that he's got too much credibility on these things. Look, we can't lose sight of the basics of what happened here. You had somebody who, was perceived to be disloyal to your party's grand leader. And she lost office because of that.
Grand leader, you make him sound like he's a Klansman or something, Mike. Come on.
He is to some a cult leader. I mean, we have to be honest. The amount
he's the former president of the United States and the titular head of the Republican Party. We can keep it there.
Yeah, but I mean, the level of loyalty that people manifest to him is cult-like. And
things were good when he was president. I mean, we didn't have record inflation. We could afford groceries. We could afford gas. Yeah, the fall of Afghanistan wasn't happening.
There weren't millions of illegal immigrants coming across the southern border.
Great point, Amber.
Yeah, just go with it, Amber.
Things were good
prosperity, border security.
Herbert Hoover presidency too, but history was not kind to him, and he was not good for the Republican Party. Folks, listen, trust a Democrat. I mean, I'm telling you, we love the presence of Trump.
Yeah.
We love the presence of Trump.
No, I think you got
Democrats from being too excited about the prospect of Trump remaining in the party, considering that was the exact type of deceit that they led themselves to in 2016 that lost them the election.
If they loved him so much, Mike, they'd call off all the Mar-a-Lago stuff. They call it off and just say, go ahead and run, and we'll beat you. But they don't seem to want to do that. I want to take a look at this picture of Liz Cheney. She posted on Twitter of herself voting. You can see it in a tweet here. And somebody very astutely pointed out that it had about 152,000 likes on Twitter, which is about 3 times as many votes as Liz Cheney got in her primary, which, Amber, makes me think Liz Cheney actually thought she was running in the GOP primary for Twitter, didn't she?
Yeah, that's the problem with a lot of politicians is they campaign on social media and they mistake Twitter for real life. And nothing can replace grassroots campaigning, getting on the ground, knocking doors, and actually talking to your constituents. And Liz Cheney learned that the hard way. I mean, that's the simple fact of it all.
And Mike, I think, if you take this out of the realm of, polarized partisan politics here, this does also represent an old kind of school way of thinking. You can think about Robert Wexler, the old congressman who got busted at his mailbox in Virginia, even though he represented a district in Florida. Liz Cheney is of this political class that believes they don't actually have to go home to their district. They can represent those people from Washington, D.C. That's bad.
Yeah, I mean, look, that is a valid point. I mean, all across the country, people want authentic representation of people who live in a community. And you could argue that, Liz Cheney, because of her family ties, does represent the old guard, which was a very Washington, D.C. inside the Beltway, swamp, right?
Yeah.
Creature and family. But you know what? When it comes down to it, I think her loss is credited to, that's one factor for sure, but I think it's credited to a lot more than just that.
Okay, well, we'll have to leave it there. That's a pretty good cliffhanger, Mike. Nice work.
Yeah.
But we'll have Amber and Mike back. More to talk about coming up later in the show.
It's always a great conversation, guys. We look forward to the next hour.
Thank you.
All right, Bianca, they're calling it streamlining.
Oh, yes.
That's the word the CDC is using.